Welcome back. Moving on to our first segment for today to check up what is going or the current situation right now in Palestine. And of course, after all these days of barbaric war against the innocent Palestinian or civilians in Gaza Strip. And recently, of course, we know the announcement of Norway, Ireland and Spain as officially to recognize Palestine state. So over the phone, we have Ambassador Medhat Mellgy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. So first of all, I would like to shed the light on significance of this fact or this talking about this decision to recognize the Palestinian state by these three countries. How did you see this initiative and how far it can be effective during this critical period of time? Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Am I clear?
Yes, Mr. Ambassador.
All right. Well, I see this step as a little bit late, actually. I mean, this should have been taken long ago, since all the countries in the world recognize that there is an occupied territory of the Palestinian ever since the 5th of June, 1967. However, after the current event and the genocide that's been taking place against the Palestinians, and the insistence of the United States and Israel not to recognize a Palestinian state and start the procedure about the two-state solution, the world community is starting to realize that the only solution now is to recognize in a certain way unilaterally the Palestinian state. This will help to speed up the process to implement the two-state solution by the world community until Israel realizes that it has to sit and negotiate to apply what it has previously agreed on since the Oslo Accord about the presence of a Palestinian state. And I think that many other countries will follow after the step taken by Ireland and Spain and the rest. So I think it's quite an important step at this crucial moment where the Palestinian people are totally squeezed in Rafah, and the operation is still going on, because this is paving the way for the next day or the phase after the war.
Right. Talking about this decision in particular and the fact that what if more countries can join, what do you expect? And of course, there might be some economic decisions against these three countries in order not to let others join as well.
Well, actually, I think that we've seen in different occasions that whenever there is a step taken towards the recognition of the Palestinian state or trying to help the Palestinian by any state, Israel, and backed always by the United States, is taking extreme measures against these countries. But, I mean, this would not stop the movement of many countries. I mean, we've seen this, for instance, when the Prosecutor General of the ICC is issuing a warrant against Prime Minister Netanyahu, and you have Gallant, his defense minister, that they threaten the judges and the Prosecutor General, and they try to stop the movement. We've seen this when, before that, countries have recognized the state of Israel, and so on. So this is the steps that they're always going to take. However, this is a momentum that is starting now, and I don't think it's going to stop. And as long as there will be an occupation and an insistence on not recognizing the Palestinian rights, more and more countries in the world are going to recognize the Palestinian state in order to establish a fact that there is a Palestinian state that should be created on the territory of the Palestinians, which is, as we all know, the territory of 1967 with East Jerusalem as capital.
Well, of course, if you are looking for peace and stability in the region, we can never achieve it without actually reaching a solution for the Palestinian cause. And if I asked you about a speech delivered actually by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken when he said on Tuesday that the Gaza ceasefire deal was still possible, but he charged that an international criminal court arrest bid for Israeli leaders was setting back diplomatic efforts. How do you read this, and actually how far can they still back or just be on the side of Israel? And being on the side of Israel, it means that you are against the whole world. And when I say the whole world, I'm not talking about leaders, I'm talking about the citizens or the nations in particular.
Well, actually, I mean, we have been witnessing ever since this erupted on the 7th of October, and even before that, we've been always seeing very mixed messages coming from the American administration and especially from the State Department. I mean, the United States have always spoken, and Antony Blinken personally, the State Secretary, have mentioned many times the necessity of creating the Palestinian state and reaching to the two-state solution. However, when we, and when I talk about we, we're talking about the international community, start to implement this in a practical way, the United States withdraw right away and say that this is not the best way. Unfortunately, the United States is in a position where it's starting to look like a pariah state, that it is taking decisions that nobody actually know how to implement. And if you are in favor of the two-state solution, as you have officially said, whether we are talking about even President Biden himself or his administration, and what you've been practicing on the land, you'll see a very different position, which is always the same problem. The United States want to show that it is agreeing with the international community, while at the same time it doesn't want to force Israel to accept anything Israel doesn't want to accept. And that's why we see this double position, let's call it this way, from the United States. But unfortunately, the reality is that the United States is still backing up Israel on the attacks and the massacres that is taking place on land. I mean, the United States has mentioned, and this is a very important thing because this is related to Palestinian lives at the moment. I mean, the United States has spoken clearly that it's against any military operation in Rafah. And then this has changed to any major operation in Rafah, which is accepted by them to have a limited operation. But then now we are very quantitative. So what is a limited operation in Rafah? I mean, we've seen that it's a full-scale operation so far, and we have almost 1 million people once again displaced from Rafah to other areas, and there is a continuation of the massacres in Rafah by the Palestinians, which this time is backed by the United States, since it is, as described, not a major operation in Rafah. Unfortunately, those mixed messages are putting the whole world community, as you mentioned, in a confusion state, because we don't understand exactly what is the current position of the United States. Is it for peace? Is it for the creation of a two-state solution, or is it against? And unfortunately, Israel is using this to continue whatever it wants to do with the blessing of the United States and the full support of it.
Especially that Benjamin Netanyahu came out, of course, furious after these announcements, saying that if this is going to happen, we're allowing terrorism to be back, and no one can ever imagine what kind of terrorism and what kind of terrorism we are seeing every day when we see all these kids dying every day, and women and people, families, members of the whole family are dying every day. And if we're talking about the International Court of Justice as well on the other side, so now we have South Africa, we have Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, and Libya. Finally, they are all joining when it comes to the decision or to the laws, to measures to be adopted by the International Criminal Court. So how far do you see they can impose any measures or force Israel to have an immediate ceasefire and to allow humanitarian aid immediately to be into Gaza?
Well, actually, the situation is that Israel did not stop at any moment to listen to the world community. Actually, as long as it is backed by the United States, and the United States is actually providing Israel with all the diplomatic and political support, Israel is continuing with its operations. Whether these operations are considered war crimes or they are considered as a small operation or a small or a limited terrestrial operation in Rafah. This is the major player in the current situation, the United States. And the United States does not want to take any concrete measures to force Israel to comply ever since the 7th of October. I mean, we've heard it several times about the humanitarian aid. We've heard it about the allowing more aid to enter to the starving people of Gaza. And not to, I mean, President Biden himself used this word, which is that Israel is indiscriminately targeting civilians. He used this word, which is the war crime, and nevertheless, still the United States is backing Israel on whatever it's doing. So, I mean, if Israel has this coverage, even now, after the new warrant that will be issued by the ICC, the United States described this as a nation that has always been known for respecting the international law and respecting the rule of law. And the United States have totally flipped out against the decision of the ICC to summon Prime Minister Netanyahu and his defense minister, and I mean, and it's pronounced itself as a decision that is outrageous. I mean, this is another sign that shows to which extent the United States is following Israel in whatever it wants, to the point that it doesn't mind to contradict itself with the international law. So, I mean, this is the point why I don't see that there is a real hope in Israel complying with the international law, because, as I said from the beginning, the United States is providing it with all the necessary diplomatic coverage to allow it to continue with its operations.
Well, if we're going to look at the whole situation, sir, the most important part, that no way that you can spread any false or fake news, as, for example, what happened to involve Egypt in anything. We all know the situation and how Egypt is standing by the Palestinian cause since it started years ago, not only started on the 7th of October. And we have seen now live shootings from all over Gaza to see what is really happening. And everyone now, all over the world, we can understand what is happening, and no one can ever imagine, because this is just a call for spreading chaos. If there is a country that is going to be responsible for the death of all these people, and no one in this world can stop it or even impose measures against them.
Unfortunately, this is the reality. It is not something that we are proud of, but at the same time, this is what is happening, and we have to deal with it as it comes. That's why I was really satisfied with the Egyptian decision to issue a statement to welcome the three new countries who have taken a decision against Israel in a certain way. Actually, it's not directed to Israel. It's directed towards what is diplomatically correct to do by recognizing the Palestinian state. And I think that one of the most important things that this will enable more countries to take similar steps to recognize the state of Israel. I mean, there is like a snowball effect that is going to start now. Many countries will follow because this is the right thing to do. We've seen recently in the United Nations General Assembly 143 countries asking once again the Security Council to reconsider its decision about, as you remember, and all our viewers remember, that the United States have used the veto right in order to put an obstacle in front of the recognition of a Palestinian state and to implement accordingly the two-state solution. So many other countries, since we have already 143 countries who recognize the Palestinian rights, many countries will unilaterally recognize the state of Israel, the state of Palestine, and Israel cannot put itself in a position where it's going to withdraw its ambassadors from all these capitals in order to deter them from taking such a decision. The situation, as we said it on this show before, the situation after the 7th of October and after the war crimes committed against the Palestinian people have changed, and there is no turning back towards what happened. The Palestinian state is going to be there because there is a Palestinian right and because the whole world recognizes that. Even in the United States and Israel, they both know that these are occupied territories and they have to be liberated for the Palestinian people. And we have to sit and renegotiate. The problem is that now we are losing more lives until we achieve this. We don't need to have more killing in the region. We have to cease fire and we have to implement what will be implemented with those 35,000 killed or even more if Israel insists on continuing. Unfortunately, this is the movement of the people, and nobody can deny the right of self and autodetermination to the Palestinian in the future.
Ambassador Medhat Mellgy, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for joining us.